Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on in to Fantasy Daily, October 15th. It is Friday. I am excited. I'm gassed up. I am ready to go. Today is a super important show. It might just be the best show ever. The best show literally ever anywhere else. That's not true. Squid Games was dope. Anyway, so welcome on in. As you can see, today is the 0-5 rebuild show. For those of you who are 0-5, 1-4, maybe even 2-3, and you're just worried, I've been putting together this show for you. That way we can dig right into finding out ways that you can rebound, bounce right back, and get yourself back into playoff shape and take home that trophy of yours, because that's what we're here for. We're here for the trophies. We're here for the dub. We're not here to just play. We're not here to just have fun. I mean, yeah, kind of, but we're here for championships. So we're back. We're ready to go. I put a lot into this show, and as I was going through, it really just, it seemed more so that I'm going to touch upon a lot of players in this today where the values can kind of alter depending on your lineup. So what I tried to do is I tried to give my perception on players that I think are either lower tier that should be higher tier later on in the year. Like, say, for example, they're kind of lower as far as, you know, where their standings are right now, and I think they'll finish at a better spot, or they're, you know, kind of under the radar. Maybe they're over projected, and I think that they'll, you know, kind of regress as the season goes on. So as I go throughout, I'm going to be talking about a lot of different topics, but I'm also going to be talking about a lot of different players and trying to give my whole, you know, perspective of them geared towards rest of season. All right. So a lot of times when we talk about players, I'm usually talking about them for that week unless I specify otherwise. So for this show specifically, besides the Thursday night review, I'm really not going to talk about like starts of the week and stuff like that. That'll all be on tomorrow's show. Some of it was on yesterday's show, so if you want to check that out, that's there too as well. But this is more going to be geared towards the 0-5, the people who are worried. And even if you're not, maybe you're somebody who's in that top spot who you're hanging out and you got somebody on your team who you're kind of worried about as well. You want to make sure you still have that elite lineup. Maybe some of these perspectives can help you as well. So this is kind of where I am with these players and how it's going. So the news section, like I said, that's for tomorrow. There's a lot of ins and outs, a lot of different things. Big piece of news we can talk about. It kind of goes along with the Thursday night review, but Zach Ertz has been traded to the Arizona Cardinals. Now, my first takes off of this immediately, my first gut reaction is that this is bad news for Zach Ertz. The offense that he's played in the last 3 years is nowhere close to the offense that Arizona is. So while I don't think that Zach Ertz is absolutely useless if you have him, hang on to him, I do feel like this hurts Zach Ertz quite a bit because the mouths there are to feed in Arizona are so much more than they are in Philadelphia. And you have Kyler Murray, who's much more competent. So while him going to a better offense does help him, I'm not sure that Zach Ertz is going to be able to keep up or keep going with, you know, the amount of targets that, you know, he's kind of seen the last couple of weeks with Jalen Hurts, which is, you know, he was used in the offense. And I'm not sure if he was used to make sure that they could be able to trade him later on. But at the same time, I don't think that Arizona is just going to completely get rid of Max Williams. I do think that you're going to see both of them a lot. So I think this hurts Zach Ertz. I think it hurts Jalen Hurts a little bit as well. I think this is great news for Dallas Goddard. So if Dallas Goddard is somebody that is on your, he was actually on my waiver wire. Somebody dropped him inexplicably. So if he's on your waiver wire, definitely got to go get Dallas Goddard. If you have Dallas Goddard, be happy, hang on to him because I think he's going to get a lot of targets going forward. But yeah, I think this is bad news for Jalen Hurts. And I'm still high on Jalen Hurts. You know, he's still going to keep going. Clearly, the team is struggling in the first half every single game, and then they get it right in the second half. But it's just, for me personally, having Zach Ertz go over to Arizona, I don't think that's an uptick for him at all. I think it's a downgrade. So that's my thoughts on the Zach Ertz trade. As far as CMC, he's still likely to be out. Dalvin Cook is practicing today. Daniel Jones is practicing. He should be good to go. Terry McLaurin was on the sideline, so that was bad news. We're still waiting for DeAndre Hopkins to hopefully get a practice in today. And that's kind of all the main notes that I have. Like I said, the majority of my news is on my Saturday show. My Saturday show is really the big culmination of the game breakdowns, who's in, who's out, all that stuff. So if you guys really want to know, my thoughts on every game, the Saturday game is really the important one. So real quick, we got a lot to cover today, so I don't want to take too much time in talking about other stuff that's not the rebuild. So let's just breeze through the Thursday night review. Tom Brady does what he wants, and it's ridiculous watching Tom Brady play now. He literally comes in, he basically shows up to work now. It's not football for him anymore. He just shows up to work. He's like, yeah, I'll throw the ball over there, and we'll throw the ball over there. And I caught an interception, so I'll go talk to my line for a second, and then I'll come back and throw 2 more touchdowns. He's ridiculous. He's absolutely ridiculous. So Tom Brady does what he wants. He's going to keep being a super stud for the rest of the year. And he's one of the people that I talked about where if you could take one of your big name quarterbacks and get a Tom Brady and a wide receiver in return, I would do it, because Tom Brady is going to keep doing this. And even when he does have like down games, his down games are like 19 points, 17 points. So me personally, if I can take a quarterback who's giving me 25 points and I trade him for Tom Brady and a wide receiver piece that I need, I might do that. So Leonard Fournette, he's ensuring that he's the running back 1, and this is going to happen a lot. This is going to happen a lot where Tom Brady's going to take the game, he's going to put the game away by the third quarter, and then Leonard Fournette's going to get the rest of the work, and he's going to get work throughout. So Leonard Fournette, super valuable. I was very off of Tampa Bay running backs, but at the beginning of the year, but it was more on the basis of it was just a cluster, kind of like Houston, where I didn't know who it was going to. But now that it's clearly Leonard Fournette, like we said at the beginning of the week, we said start Leonard Fournette in this game. So he goes off in this game, has a 30-point week, and he's clearly the running back 1 going forward. So he's a for sure running back 2 with running back 1 upside, basically for, I think, foreseeably the rest of the season. Nick Chubb is out Sunday. Wow. I just got that notification. You saw my head turn. My Spotify listeners, I did a little head turn trying to read the notifications incoming. And yeah, Christian McCaffrey's not at practice. He's not playing. It seems Nick Chubb is out. So fire up your Kareem Hunts. Kareem Hunt's going to be a stud this week now. That's good. That's very good. Well, that's not good for the Chubb owners. That sucks. But got the show for you. This show might help you. So wide receivers in Tampa Bay, Evans, Godwin, Brown, they're doing what they do. One falls off, one has a great week, blah, 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 blah. This is going to keep happening. Keep rolling them out as wide receiver 1s. Keep rolling them out. I love them. Chris Godwin, he's kind of on the fringe right now. If you want to trade him to kind of upgrade or package something, I totally understand that, willing to do that. I think Godwin's going to keep doing this throughout the season where he's going to be a lingering wide receiver 2, and you paid wide receiver 1 price for him. Some people might still consider him a wide receiver 1. So you would be able to actually make that swap if you needed to, where if you could trade out a Godwin for a wide receiver 1 that you're confident in, and I don't know, if I could trade Godwin and somehow get Debo Samuel in return, that's something I would do, obviously. So like I said, I'm trying to move up when I'm trading Godwin away. But I'm still rolling out all 3. I'm not trying to move them, but Godwin, I could understand making the case that out of the 3, he's the one that I would probably trade, in hopes of getting the return and moving up. I'm not just trading him because I'm disappointed. I'm trading him because I want to move up. Yeah, so keep starting those guys. The Eagles side of the ball, Jalen Hurts is just a second half player right now, and that really is what it is. And now me personally, I'm hoping that he can pick it up and start having some first half games, but it doesn't seem to be happening right now, and it's sad because I want Jalen Hurts to be a stud. I think that Jalen Hurts is a stud, and you can see it in this, the second half of every single game he plays super well. We just need him to play like that throughout. So he needs to start making those passes. He needs to start connecting on those deep passes, the ones that are important. We saw a lot of, closely contested receivers, but the receivers were going to be able to make that catch, and Jalen Hurts just didn't put him on him. He just didn't put the ball on him. So want to see Jalen Hurts get better. Hopefully it happens soon, but this might be the Jalen Hurts that you have for the rest of the season, and he might have a couple disappointing games on him. I'm going to keep rolling him out every single week, and that's because of the touchdown upside. He's going to keep rushing touchdowns in. So I like Jalen Hurts a lot. I'm going to keep rolling with him, but don't be surprised if these weeks keep happening where you have to, be scared for the entire first half and then hopefully make a second half comeback. I'm still high on Hurts, though, so keep rolling him out. I said yesterday, Quez Watkins or Jalen Reagor, I think they're going to have a big game. They both had potential for a huge game. Both of them had a potential for a huge game, and Jalen Hurts just missed them. But like I've been saying for a couple weeks, I think Quez Watkins is super underrated on this team. And last night, I'm willing to make the claim, stake my flag in it. Quez Watkins is the best wide receiver on that team. between Jalen Reagor and Devonte Smith, Quez Watkins is the best wide receiver on that team. And you saw it in the touchdown that he had, or the touchdown that he just barely missed. That ball should not have been caught. And Quez Watkins came down with it. He had 1 foot in bounds, didn't get the second foot down, but he had such a great night for, he passed the eye test with flying colors, basically. It went from just watching the game. Quez Watkins was, easily the best talent on the field. So I think that Quez Watkins, me personally, he's on the waiver wire for most teams. And if he's in a deep league, I'm willing to take a shot on him, especially now that Zach Ertz is gone. But I think Quez Watkins is criminally underused in this offense. And I know that people might, go up in arms and say, Devonta Smith, look at the stat totals. And keep looking at them. And then look at the eye test, man. Quez Watkins is something different. So I really want to see Quez Watkins get more involved. Hopefully now that Zach Ertz is gone, he will. And if you don't know, Tampa Bay beat Philadelphia. So they had a chance. Philadelphia had a chance. Every team against Tampa Bay has a chance, and they just shoot themselves in the foot. So that's it for Thursday. We got 19 more minutes. Let us get into the guide. Welcome on in to the 0-5 Rebuild Guide. That was my transition music. So in this guide, the table of contents here, we got players that are most commonly on losing teams and what to do with them. So I went through all of my leagues. Excuse me. I dug around the internet a little bit, and I found the players that are most commonly on these teams that are 0-5, 1-4, 2-3. There are some surprising names that stuck out to me, but when you think about draft capital and where they were and where you paid for them, it does kind of make sense on why those players are there. So there are some players that are commonly on losing teams, but they're top 5, players at their position. So we'll discuss those as we go as well. Players you need to move away from are also in the guide. Players that are on rosters that I'm seeing where I'm looking through. And this is going through everybody's roster, basically. This is going through all of my 8-man, 10-man, 12-man, 14-man leagues. And all the players that I see on there that you just need to move away from. They shouldn't be on your team anymore. Sip time. As long as, as well as players I'm willing to trade. So players that are on teams that you might be locked to, like, I can't trade this person. I'm telling you, I'm willing to trade them. Waiver wire targets, so people that are on the waiver wire that I think you could put on your team and hang on to them, whether to look at them or to put them in your lineup right away. And then finally, trade targets. Now, trade targets is going to be a different kind of section for us. I'm not going to go in and just say, hey, you should get this guy, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to go through the actual player listings with you and then start discussing players as we go after I cover the first 4 topics. So hopefully all that will blend together, kind of give you an idea of where you should go on trades, whether or not you have those players or you're trying to retrieve those players in a trade. So without further ado, let us get right into it with the common players on losing teams. We'll start at quarterback. Ryan Tannehill and Kirk Cousins are the 2 most frequent players on losing rosters. Now, with that being said, these 2 people are on good teams with good offenses. So that's where your mind goes to. And I understand the correlation there. Good teams, good wide receivers, they should be putting up fantasy points, correct? Yes, but fantasy points in passing aren't close to what fantasy points in rushing and touchdowns are. So that's where I'm isolating my viewpoint when I'm looking at quarterbacks in fantasy football. I want rushing touchdowns, and I want passing touchdowns. These 2 here could disappear from both of those topics any given week. So Kirk Cousins and Ryan Tannehill at the beginning of the season for me were streamers. I understand the logic there. I understand the logic of, these are good offenses, they should be good quarterbacks. I get that. But there's far more quarterbacks out there that I would rather have, and I would rather stream these guys. And when I say stream, so if you're new to fantasy football and you don't know what streaming is when I'm willing to drop that quarterback to pick up a different one on that week. So that's what streaming a quarterback is if I have Ryan Tannehill and Joe Burrow's on the waiver wire, I'm dropping Ryan Tannehill and I'm picking up Joe Burrow. All right. And while we're on the topic, I think Joe Burrow is a rest of season starter. You got to go get him. Kirk Cousins, same thing. If I look out there and I see Baker Mayfield or Daniel Jones and I want to play him, I'm dropping Kirk Cousins. I'm not letting him take up space on my roster. The worst thing that you can do in this point in the season, and now this is a big thing for me in this point of the season, whether I'm winning, whether I'm losing, whether I'm out of playoffs, whether I'm at the top, number 1 spot and I've already clinched playoffs, I am not letting players roster block me. And when I mean roster block, I mean they're taking up a spot and I'm seeing what's going to happen. I'm at this point in the season, depending on where I am, and usually anywhere I am, you're not roster blocking me after week 5. I have enough of a sample size where I'm not going to stash you in hopes that it turns out. So a big example of this is Rashad Bateman. A lot of people are really high on Rashad Bateman, right? He's a rookie. He's never played in the NFL before. He's getting into an offense that could never find their passing rhythm. Finally, they're finding their passing rhythm with Marquise Brown and Mark Andrews, and that's really all it's isolated to. Besides that, Duvernay and Watkins had like a game in between. So if you have the room and you're stacked, you're sure, you're confident in your lineup, yes, you can stash Rashad Bateman, right? But if you're in a position where you're looking at Kadarius Toney on the waiver wire, who's going to play this week, and you want to stash Rashad Bateman, I'm going Kadarius Toney all day. He's already showed me. He's already proved to me. So hype isn't going to save room on my lineup. I'm not going to put hype on my lineup and then let it sit there for 3 weeks, and then it blows up in my face, and now I've already paid the price for it, and I'm 3 weeks deep into it when I could have had somebody else like a Kadarius Toney, who's a flex option, who's a wide receiver 3 option with wide receiver 2 upside. So me personally, this time of the year, one of the biggest things you can do is people like Ryan Tannehill, Kirk Cousins, if you have them and you're getting a different quarterback, drop them. Let somebody else have them. I'm fine with that. As long as I have a Baker Mayfield, the Joe Burrow, Daniel Jones, somebody that I can pivot to, I'm okay with that. I'm not going to let these people take up room on my roster. So those 2 quarterbacks for me, they were on a lot of losing rosters. And I do believe that they're 2 players that you need to be streaming or try to move away from completely. And I would be trying to move away from both of those guys completely. At wide receiver, Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins, both of these guys are on a lot of losing teams. And I can understand why. Tyler Boyd missed a week. T. Higgins missed a couple weeks. So I can understand holding on to these players. This is different. Waiting for injury is not holding on to a player. Holding on to a player is like the Rashad Bateman example I gave you, where it's like, oh, maybe, could be, might be. It's an estimate of what they could be doing, and it's not proven yet. Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins have proven themselves, so I understand hanging on to those guys. I would hang on to those guys as well if you can get a trade for them. If you could trade them away to get something else that you're more confident in, I'm okay with that. Because Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins are going to play the 2-3 role behind Jamar Chase for the rest of the year, no matter what. So if you can trade out of that to get something you're more confident in, like a Chase Claypool, something like that, I would absolutely do that. Brandon Ayuk, he is on a lot of losing teams. I've talked about him a lot. You need to drop Brandon Ayuk. You need to get rid of him. I'm all set. And when I say drop, I can mean drop him to the waiver wire in exchange for somebody else. I mean trade him off your team. I mean package him. I don't care what you do, but Brandon Ayuk needs to be out of your face because what's going to happen is he's going to score a 30-point game. You're going to put him in your lineup and then he's going to score 8 points. I don't trust Brandon Ayuk at all. I said it after week 1 with all the stuff that was going on in San Francisco. Kyle Shanahan has little allegiance to any player ever. Brandon Ayuk, if you're in the doghouse with Kyle Shanahan, and you still haven't gotten it, I'm out. I don't want it. So Brandon Ayuk, all set. Any way I can get him off my team, I'm doing it. If I can drop Brandon Ayuk for Kadarius Toney, I'm doing it in a heartbeat. I don't want Brandon Ayuk at all. Chase Claypool, he was on a lot of losing rosters. Keep rocking with him. If you can trade to get Claypool, trade to get Claypool. Keep rocking with him. Tyler Lockett, he was on a lot of losing teams. But with the fact that Geno Smith is out until week 10, I think you keep an eye on Lockett. He might get peppered with targets. Don't trade him. Trade for him if you can. But also remember that he's a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 with wide receiver 1 upside. But he definitely lingers in that wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 role. Jarvis Landry, he should be coming back. This is an injury one. Hang on to him. If you can trade for Jarvis Landry, I would, because I think that Jarvis Landry has some upside later on because Odell Beckham is just useless. Allen Robinson, you need to get him off your team any way you can. Trade him. Not any way you can, actually. I'd take that one back. I'm trying to speed up the show a little bit. But Allen Robinson, you got to trade him away if you can. Put him in a package, sell him for nickels, whatever. Just give him to somebody who needs a wide receiver and they're low on it. If you need a running back, take like Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Allen Robinson and give him away for a, running back 2 somewhere and just get it off your team. Kenny Gallaudet, you got to move away from Kenny Gallaudet any way that you can do it. Again, I shouldn't say that. I don't want to drop him, but if I can trade him, I'm going to. Jalen Waddle, I want to hang on to him for one more week. but I do think that Devonte Parker can get a lot of work going forward. So Jalen Waddle, I still want to hang on to while Tua's out. So Tua is coming back this week. I'd like to see what happens with Jalen Waddle for the next couple of weeks. Christian Kirk, I think that you got to kind of hold Christian Kirk, but I'm also willing to move him. I think that Rondale Moore is going to start getting a lot more involved. He's going to start breaking out soon, so Christian Kirk might fall behind. Zach Ertz is coming to town now, so Christian Kirk is kind of falling down the depth chart, inadvertently, but it's happening. So me personally, I don't want Christian Kirk on my team. I don't want to, hang on to him. I don't want to roster him. I'm even willing to drop him if I can. Devonta Smith, he's another one where I really don't want to roster him. If I can try to trade him away, I will. It's just super inconsistent. You never know when to start him. I don't want that on my team. Keenan Allen is a big name that I saw on a lot of losing rosters that not a lot of people are going to be willing to trade. And I'll tell you right now, I'm willing to trade Keenan Allen. I've been super high. If you guys keep up with the show, I've been a Mike Williams stan since the beginning of the season. I absolutely love Mike Williams. I liked Mike Williams for a couple years, so seeing him actually be able to do Mike Williams stuff this year makes me happy. But Keenan Allen's going to keep falling behind because Mike Williams is just too dominant in the red zone. And that's really where Keenan Allen's losing his points, is in the red zone. So you're going to have kind of a Stephon Diggs year. Him and Keenan Allen kind of the same. So if you could trade Keenan Allen, get like a Stephon Diggs, I would do that though. Speaking of Stephon Diggs. But Keenan Allen's kind of in that role right now where he's not getting the touchdowns. He's really getting out, left behind some games. And while he's still an elite wide receiver 1, he's in that same role that Stephon Diggs is in right now where he's just getting, kind of left behind because everybody else is open. He's getting double covered, whatever it may be. So Keenan Allen, I'm definitely willing to trade if I can move up on wide receiver. At running back, Miles Sanders, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I said last night if Miles Sanders doesn't have a good game in this one, I'm out on Miles Sanders. Kenneth Gainwell came in for one play, caught one pass, and that was it. So Miles Sanders, I think, is a hold. I think he's a hold. If you can trade him away and somebody saw the game and they're high on him like I am. Now, I'm not high on Miles Sanders. I'm just saying, okay, now it looks like Miles Sanders is going to be the one. They're going to get him involved a little bit more, so hopefully he does. So holding Miles Sanders for now because I want to see what happens. But if you can trade Miles Sanders to for sure move up at running back, I definitely would. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, we've been talking about him for weeks, is that if you can trade him, do it. Whatever you can to trade him, do it. I don't want Clyde Edwards-Helaire on my team. And now I'm not trading him away for peanuts. I'm going to try to get something that I'm confident in getting, that I like, because he's still, in a bye week. You can put him in there and he'll probably give you 10, 12 points. But he's not worth what you paid for him. He's not worth what you're expecting. And if somebody thinks that because he's a Kansas City running back, they can, something's going to happen, sure, whatever. You take the chance. I don't want to. So I'm somebody who has Clyde and he's sitting in my IR. And when he comes off the IR, if I need that IR spot, I'll probably trade him for peanuts. I don't want Clyde on my team. Myles Gaskin, I think you wait and see. Because if the team does start really moving forward with him as the one and they put Savon Ahmed and Malcolm Brown behind him, then he could have some value, but I'm still willing to give him away if the package that I'm receiving is much better. Mike Davis, Damian Harris, Elijah Mitchell, Michael Carter, those 4 names on a lot of losing teams. I want nothing to do with all 4 of them. Mike Davis and Damian Harris, they might have value in package trades. Elijah Mitchell, Michael Carter, probably just drops. Joe Mixon, you got to get him off your team any way that you can. Don't drop him, just any way that you can trade, any way that you can move up. If you can take Joe Mixon and a lower-end wide receiver to get Deandre Swift, do that. If you can take Joe Mixon and a lower-end wide receiver to get some, we'll have to go more in depth into the players and whatnot. But yeah, Joe Mixon is somebody that I'm really kind of worried about right now, and I'm not willing to wait up on him. He's another person that I think's just taking up roster space. Common players on losing teams for tight end, Robert Tonyan, he's a streamer. You got to drop him to pick up somebody else. Zach Ertz, he's a streamer as well. Dallas Goddard, hang on to him because he could be blowing up now. So hang on to him for sure. Moving on. So those are the common players on losing teams. Now let us talk about, excuse me, I'm trying to get my wide receivers stats up here. Stats, 21 once, boom, there we go. All right. So players you need to move away from. Players we already talked about, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Brandon Ayuk, Kenny Gallaudet, Allen Robinson, Joe Mixon, Mike Davis, Damian Harris. So now the other people that we need to talk about, Odell Beckham. You guys know me. I don't like Odell Beckham. I've been talking about it for a while. I said 1 week you could put him in because the game script was perfect and Jarvis Landry was out. and then he shot us in the face. So I'm out on Odell Beckham. I don't want him on my team. I want nothing to do with him. If I can package trade him, I'm doing it. George Kittle, super disappointed. I've been saying it for a couple weeks. I said it in my week 3 video where, players you need to move away from. I think you should trade George Kittle. If you can trade George Kittle and get Dalton Schultz and something else, heartbeat, I'd do it right away. If you could trade George Kittle and get Dawson Knox and something else, heartbeat, I'd do it right away. AJ Green, he really wasn't on those lists, but he's a streamer for me, so I wouldn't let him take up roster room. Drop him, pick up somebody else. Let's see. Baltimore and San Francisco running backs. I'm out on both of them. So if you have Baltimore and San Francisco running backs and you're waiting around, you're doing yourself a disservice. Don't wait around on those running backs. Robbie Anderson, same thing. You're waiting around for it. Don't wait around for it. It's going to take an injury for Robbie Anderson to be good, and DJ Moore is a house. Julio Jones. I've talked about this a lot, and I got a lot of... This was probably my number 1 take this year that I got heat from, where everybody's like, how can you move away from Julio Jones? And look, he's still on your bench. That's part of the value with these players, is that if you're going to keep doing this every single year, not playing a full 16, 17 games, then you're not showing up when you're supposed to. I don't want you on my fantasy team. So for all the players, people, managers out there who gave me slack about Julio Jones, how's that IR spot treating you? It's not me saying I don't like Julio Jones. It's saying you have to look at the perception of what he is right now and what does he mean to my fantasy team. He means, trying to think of the word I'm looking for, liability. That's what Julio Jones is. He's a liability on your fantasy team. I love Julio. He's a stud. He's one of the best tight end wide receivers ever in existence. Probably number 2 in existence as far as talent goes. But it's just not happening in fantasy. So I don't want it on my team. Players I'm willing to trade. Now, these are the big end names that I'm willing to move away from in order to for sure get something in return that's going to get me a big package. That's Mark Andrews, Darren Waller. I know that's going to hurt. That Darren Waller one's going to hurt you. But at the same time, if you can get a Dawson Knox, a Dalton Schultz, a higher end tight end, or a good solid tight end, and then a running back and a wide receiver in return for Mark Andrews, Darren Waller, George Kittle, I would do it in a heartbeat. Because Mark Andrews is going to be super hit or miss. Darren Waller is going to be super hit or miss, and George Kittle, he's going to keep doing it to you. So just goes to show. DK Metcalf, Tyreek Hill, Keenan Allen, AJ Brown. Those are my wide receivers. They're big names. They're big names that I'm willing to trade in order to get a massive return in order to save my season. So let's take, for example, Travis Kelce. Nobody's going to trade Travis Kelce, right? Well, in my league, my brother is 1-4, I believe. He had a good team, but he's just getting beat up with injuries. He has nothing, he's hurting. He's got nowhere to pivot to. The waiver wire's taken up, and he doesn't know what to do. So I, as somebody who is in first place and have a lot to afford, and this is what I mean, the example, somebody like me in first place can look at all my depth and get greedy and go, ooh, I want some Travis Kelce. So I traded Stephon Diggs, Chase Edmonds, and Dalton Schultz to get Travis Kelce. Now, you might be either way on that one. You paid too much. I wouldn't trade Kelce for that. Either way, he was 1-4. His team structure and need to get into the playoffs was far greater than keeping Kelce on his team and continuing to lose. Dalton Schultz has been very promising. So me putting that in there, that sparked his interest. And then I put a name like Stephon Diggs in there. He just got a starting wide receiver, a starting tight end, and a running back 2 with running back 1 upside for Travis Kelce. People will make this trade. I made this trade and I do a fantasy football show. So, being that it's going to happen in certain leagues, go pick at it. Go see. If you're somebody who has somebody like Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, see what you can get for these massive player pieces because it might save your season. And think about it. When somebody like Darren Waller, let me time out real quick. Spotify listeners, I have 1 minute left, or my podcast listeners, I have 1 minute left on this. So if you want to see the full show, check it out over on YouTube. We are at the 29-minute, 15-second mark right now. So go ahead and check out the 30-minute mark, and we'll be somewhere right around the waiver wire targets, and then I'll get into my players to trade for, stuff like that. So hopefully going to wrap this up in the next 10 minutes, but wanted to make that guy clear for you guys. So my Spotify listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll play some outro music real quick. All right, so thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you check out YouTube to check out the rest of the show. So going back to it, if you have these massive player pieces, you can get these hauls in return. Like me personally, I got, I was complacent in the fact that I had so much depth. I was so confident in what I could get off the waiver wire, and I still am. I don't regret my Travis Kelce trade at all. I got Travis Kelce. I also, in that league, traded Dalvin Cook and DeAndre Hopkins in order to get Christian McCaffrey. Because the guy who had Christian McCaffrey was like, oh, I don't know, he's going to keep getting injured. I already had Chuba Hubbard. So now I have Christian McCaffrey, Chuba Hubbard, right? And I know you guys are probably thinking you traded away Nook and Diggs. Who's your wide receivers? My wide receivers are Mike Williams, Marquise Brown, Mike Evans, 2 more. I got good wide receivers. Don't worry about it. But yeah, those are the players I'm willing to trade. And like I said, I'm just trying to use it as an example to say that if you have high upside players, they're going to get massive returns. Massive returns that could save your season immediately and maybe even better. So actually, before I, played out the Spotify listeners, one of the things that I want to talk about was when you're looking at people like Travis Kelce, Darren Waller, and they put up 30, 40-point weeks for you, right? Those 3 or 4 times that they do it, right? What did you win that week by? Did you win that week by 5? Did you win it by 2? Or did you win it by 20, 30 points where you blew them out of the water? You probably blew them out of the water. So those 30, 40 points really didn't do what you think they just did. You built a team where it has super high upside at one position, but then lacks depth everywhere else. That's a problem. Consistency is key. Finding consistency is the problem. But if you can build a consistent lineup where nobody's ever putting up less than 10 points, something like that, you're almost guaranteed a winning season into the playoffs, right? So that's what I try to look for. Consistency on my team, players that are going to keep continually doing it. And like there was a point in time where Clyde Edwards-Helaire was the worst player on my team. And because he was the worst player on my team, I was almost ready to give him away. You know what I mean? So go find those players who are that, well off and see what they're willing to do. Because most of the time, most players aren't going to be like, oh, I'm going to keep all these players to myself. They're going to want to play. They're going to want to trade. They're going to want, you're going to, dangle a carrot in front of them like, ooh, I got Travis Kelce. And they're going to go, what can I afford to lose? Because they're hood rich. Like me, I was hood rich. So I went out and got Travis Kelce and I got Christian McCaffrey. But I'm still confident in my lineup. I don't regret that. So you're going to have these teams that you can do that to. So, all right, getting into the waiver wire targets. I want to try to carve this out. Taylor Heineke, I think he's somebody who's on the waiver wire who could return you weekly value. Joe Burrow, I think he is criminally unrostered right now. Couldn't think of the word, that was weird. I think Joe Burrow is criminally unrostered right now. He needs to be rostered. Everybody's back. The 3 wide receivers are back. Joe Mixon's not playing well, but they're throwing the ball like crazy. Joe Burrow's not really running, but he's throwing touchdowns like crazy. I really think that you need to pick up Joe Burrow and keep him on your team. And if I'm somebody like that, has Mayfield, Tannehill, Kirk Cousins, I'll drop them and start Joe Burrow for the rest of the season. The last 2 weeks, Joe Burrow's been heating up. I think that you need to get him onto your roster. Teddy Bridgewater, Daniel Jones. I think they're 2 quarterbacks that you may be able to stream weekly where they're going to put up upside. So keep an eye on Taylor Heineke, Teddy Bridgewater, Daniel Jones. These 3 quarterbacks I think you can stream every single week depending on the matchup, and they're not going to sink your team. So if you're one of those teams that has a really bad quarterback, those are good names to look at. Running backs on the waiver wire. Unfortunately, right now, when you get into week 5, week 6, you're not going to find hidden gems anymore. We already found them. We already found who's doing what. We have enough sample size to say this guy's in the front, this guy's in the back, he's 1, he's 2. You're really looking at backups. So let me just rifle off the backups. J.D. McKissic, the backup to Antonio Gibson. Tony Pollard, the backup to Zeke. Tariq Cohen. Tariq Cohen is a name that I think you need to go get right now, though, because David Montgomery's already out. Damian Williams is out with COVID this week. Khalil Herbert's going to get the start, but next week, Tariq Cohen comes back. So if Tariq Cohen comes back and he gets the start, I think you need to have him on your team. So he's a backup as well behind David Montgomery, but I think he's still got use throughout the year. Giovanni Bernard, he's the backup to Leonard Fournette. I think if Leonard Fournette goes down, it's Giovanni Bernard over Ronald Jones. Sony Michel, that team loves to run the ball, and if Darrell Henderson, something happens to him, Sony Michel is going to be huge. A.J. Dillon is probably the number 1 backup besides Pollard, whereas if something were to happen to Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon is massive upside. Jerry Mcnichols, I spelled his name way wrong in my show doc. Jerry Mcnichols, the back behind Derrick Henry. Another one, he's a handcuff, but I think if you have roster space and you're just kind of hurting and you want to wait and see, do what I do sometimes, whereas if I have roster space or if I have somebody in the Thursday night game that I can drop or I don't want him, I'll drop them and I'll pick up one of the backups just in case. And if the running back happens to go down, I already have him and I don't need to pay the waiver price next week. So kind of a little cheat code that you can use where you pick them up at the beginning of the week, see what happens. And if they don't, whatever, you drop them at the end of the week anyway. Wide receivers, Devonte Parker, I think is somebody that you need to keep an eye on. Hunter Renfrow, he is somebody who's on a lot of waiver wires, and I do believe that he has wide receiver 2 upside. He should not be on waiver wires. Rondale Moore, another one, should not be on waiver wires. I think there might be a breakout coming soon. Kadarius Toney has to be rostered. So does Darnell Mooney. Kadarius Toney and Darnell Mooney have to be rostered. Quez Watkins, I'm just a huge fan. Hopefully now that Zach Ertz is gone, you can take a look at him. So obviously the waiver wire is pretty thin, but that's what you can look at. So, and remember, if you guys ever have any questions, drop them on my TikTok at Fantasy Daily Football. Check me out there. Same thing on Twitter, at NPasswell on Twitter, NPASWELL on Twitter. Let's move over to trade targets. Now, these are some trade targets that I'm looking at right now where I think they're kind of lower end guys where you don't have to pay a ton to go get them. But I do think that they're going to have second half seasons where they're going to be super valuable. So still within the spirit of trying to speed up the show, Josh Jacobs, Javonte Williams, Antonio Gibson, David Montgomery. Those are the 4 names that I think that are really, really underrated right now and could be running back ones by the end of the season, or as far as the second half season sample size. So those guys, David Montgomery, Antonio Gibson, Javonte Williams, Josh Jacobs, they're huge trade targets for me right now. Somebody actually in one of my leagues dropped Javonte Williams, and I got to pick him up for free, and I was stoked. 2 names that I'm willing to pay for, Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor. They're easing Christian McCaffrey in. I really believe that Christian McCaffrey could have came back in that game, and they were just not having it. They were like, nope, we can win this game. Nope, go sit down. Oh, he's 50-50. Nope, go sit down. Oh, he's 50-50. Nope, go sit down. I really think that Christian McCaffrey is getting eased in here into a point where they're like, dude, we're gonna be close to playoffs. Save it. And if they're not close to playoffs, because they're gonna lose a couple games like they did to Philadelphia, they're gonna be playing for it. And Christian McCaffrey is gonna be super necessary in those games. So me personally, I'm willing to go out and pay for Christian McCaffrey like I had already done. But I think Christian McCaffrey is gonna be huge involved. And speaking of that as well, Travis Kelce, I don't think Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are playing like they should be right now or like they usually are. They're a little bit off their game, but Kelce is just the absolute moment for Patrick Mahomes, and he's always there. Tyreek Hill is just, obviously Tyreek Hill's a stud. A lot of times I say trade Tyreek Hill, and people are like, you don't like Tyreek Hill. I love Tyreek Hill. He's a beast, but he's always double covered, blah, blah, blah. The offense isn't playing like they usually do, so I'm willing to move him in order to get that haul back. That's why I'm willing to trade Tyreek Hill. But with that, I'd like to hang on to Tyreek Hill, and I think that Travis Kelce is going to be just ridiculous the second half of the season. I really think that Travis Kelce is just going to put up stupid numbers at the second half of the season, because Chiefs are, they're falling behind in their own division. That's so weird to me. So they got to catch up to Vegas. That sounds so weird to say. So weird. So let's get into it. Let us talk about some tight ends and some trade targets. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to kind of scream through the list of positions and say, this is a guy that I think you need to trade for. This is a guy I think you need to move off of. So real quick, rapid fire. I'm only going to do this for another maybe 12 minutes. So here we go. Travis Kelce, got to go try to trade for him if you can. Darren Waller, he's somebody that I would actually move away from. George Kittle, I would move away from him if I can. Both guys, I want to trade big to get them. I'm willing to move them in order to get a return that I'm confident in. A running back, a tight end, a wide receiver that I'm confident in. TJ Hawkinson, he's a trade target for me. I do think that Jared Goff is going to get better in the passing game as the season progresses. He's gotten a little bit better as the season goes on. I'm still in love with the running backs over there. But I think that TJ Hawkinson right now, his value might be a little bit lower for the TJ Hawkinson manager. So if you can go get him, do it for sure. Kyle Pitts, got to keep Kyle Pitts. The Kyle Pitts manager is not going to move away from him. So I want Kyle Pitts, but he's not moving. Mark Andrews, I'm willing to move away from. Noah Fant, I'm very stagnant on. I don't care what you do with him. I'd like to own him, but if you got to trade him, if you got to drop him, whatever. Rob Gronkowski, hang on to him. If you can trade him away, trade him away. Logan Thomas. Is Logan Thomas done for the year? No, I think he's coming back in 2 weeks. Yeah. Yeah, he's coming back week 8. Okay, yeah. So Logan Thomas, if he's out there, take a look at him. If somebody dropped Logan Thomas, or if you can trade for him, grab Logan Thomas. I love him, especially when Ryan Fitzpatrick comes back in week 10/11. Tyler Higbee, I like him. He's very stagnant. He's kind of on the Noah Fant level for me. Mike G should be better as the season goes on. So if you can get Mike G, trade low for him. Don't spend too much on him. Robert Tonyan's a streamer. He should be on your waiver wire. Jared Cook's a streamer. He should be on your waiver wire. Hunter Henry, streamer. Dallas Goddard needs to be on your team. I think he's going to actually do better as the season goes on, especially with Zach Ertz gone. Jonnu Smith, he needs to be on your waiver wire. Cole Kmet, Gerald Everett, Blake Jarwin, all need to be on your waiver wire. I'm getting into like the lower end names now. Dalton Schultz, I love him rest of the season. Cameron Brate, no, don't want that. Dawson Knox, I love him rest of the season. Evan Ingram, I'm not buying into the Giants hype at all. We saw them use Kyle Rudolph even when Evan Ingram was on the field. No, don't trick me. I don't want it. Mo Alley Cox, he's a low-end guy who probably should have been on my waiver wire targets for tight end. I like him a lot, and I do believe that Mo Alley Cox is going to be super valuable for Carson Wentz as the season progresses. So keep an eye on Mo Alley Cox. If Jack Doyle starts taking a back seat to him, I think Mo Alley Cox is going to be a beast. Devonte Adams, keep him. He's a stud. Tyreek Hill, I'm willing to trade him. DK Metcalf, I'm willing to trade him. Calvin Ridley, I think you do need to trade Calvin Ridley. If you can move away from Calvin Ridley to get somebody right now, I would do it. A lot of people in the fantasy community are like, oh, well, he's just not getting the touchdowns. The touchdowns are coming. From where? From where? He missed a game because of a personal injury. I had actually correction. I said on my show it was an injury. It wasn't an injury. It was a personal issue. That's why he didn't go to London. But I think you need to move away from Calvin Ridley. A lot of people are saying, oh, his touchdowns, this, that. I don't care. I don't want that. If I can trade Calvin Ridley to get DJ Moore, I'd do it in a heartbeat. DeAndre Hopkins, I'm willing to move away from DeAndre Hopkins. As you can see, I traded Dalvin Cook and him to get Christian McCaffrey. DeAndre Hopkins is going to have those up and down weeks. It's going to happen. So I'm willing to move away from him in order to get something where I'm moving up. A.J. Brown, willing to move away from him. Stephon Diggs, I'm willing to move away from him as long as I go up. Josh Allen is just giving touchdowns to everybody he feels like, whenever he feels like. Justin Jefferson, I'm not moving. I'm hanging on to him. I love Justin Jefferson. Terry McLaurin, he's injured this week. If you can try to get Terry McLaurin, get Terry McLaurin. He's going to be a stud, especially when Fitzpatrick gets back. CeeDee Lamb, if anybody is down on CeeDee Lamb, go get CeeDee Lamb. He is going to be a touchdown beast, especially if Amari Cooper goes down. So keep an eye on CeeDee Lamb. I love CeeDee Lamb. Oh, that was my other wide receiver. So if you guys were listening for the entire show, Mike Williams, Marquise Brown, CeeDee Lamb, those are my 3 starting wide receivers. That's why I traded away Diggs and Hopkins. Robert Woods, I love him. You got to go get him, but he's a wide receiver too. So temper your expectations on him from that game where he played really well. DJ Moore, I want to go get DJ Moore. Keenan Allen, I'm willing to move away from Keenan Allen. Mike Evans, I'd like to hang on to, but I'm willing to trade him in a package to get something that I'm super confident in. Same exact argument goes for Amari Cooper. Chris Godwin, I'd like to trade away in order to move up at wide receiver. Deontay Johnson, I think you need to go get. If you can get Deontay Johnson, I absolutely would, especially now that Juju's gone. Same exact argument goes for Claypool. Tyler Lockett, I'm willing to trade for him as long as the value is very cheap, because I think that with Geno Smith, he could get a lot of targets. So this might be your last chance to get Tyler Lockett for a very cheap price. Cooper Kupp, you're not going to be able to get him. He's a stud. Keep him. Adam Thielen, I'm willing to trade away as long as I'm getting something I'm moving up in. Besides that, I'd want to hang on to Adam Thielen. Julio Jones, I want to trade away. I want to get something in return, but he is actually also at that point where I'm willing to kind of just move away from him. You're going to take up space on my team. You're going to take up spots on my roster. You're going to break my heart. I don't want any part of it. T. Higgins, I'm willing to trade him away. He's a lower end guy. If you could get him in a package deal with somebody, that's kind of cool. Like if he's a throw-in piece for a package deal, I would love to get him in that. Jerry Judy, I don't know what's going to happen with Jerry Judy when he comes back. So me personally, Jerry Judy's kind of had this history, and I want to kind of stay away from Jerry Judy. I'd rather have Cortland Sutton than Jerry Judy at this point in the season, and I'm willing to be wrong about that when Jerry Judy comes back and does good. That's okay, but I don't want any part of that. Brandon Ayuk, you already heard my opinions on him. Get him out of my face. Mike Williams, Stud Muffin, love him. Wide receiver 1. Wide receiver 1. You hear me? Wide receiver 1. 1. Mike Williams for wide receiver 1. So when it happens at the end of the season, don't at me. Do at me and say thank you. Debo Samuel. He is actually a name that I don't think is looked at as a wide receiver 1, and he is easily a wide receiver 1. So if you can go out and get Debo Samuel, do it. Cortland Sutton, I think he needs to be on your team. If you can get Cortland Sutton, go ahead and get him. Jamar Chase, he's a stud. If you can get him, get him. If you have him, don't trade him away. Odell Beckham Jr., get him out of my face. I don't want him. DJ Shark broke his foot. Judy Smith, he's out for the season. Robbie Anderson, I don't want him. Tyler Boyd, I'm willing to hang on to. He's another piece where if I can get him in a trade and somebody gives him to me, I want that. Kenny Gallaudet, get off my team, and I got to trade him away. Marvin Jones, I really don't want Jacksonville wide receivers. I really don't want Jacksonville wide receivers at all. So, me personally, I want to try to move away from him. Antonio Brown, you hang on to him. Chase Claypool, go get him. Jarvis Landry, go get him. Jarvis Landry's a free agent in this league. Devonte Smith, I really don't want him. If I can trade him away in a package, I will. Michael Thomas, I don't want him either. I'm not paying the price for him unless it's super cheap. Super cheap. Michael Pittman, absolutely hang on to him. Elijah Moore, no. Marquez Callaway, no. Brandon Cooks, sure, hang on to him. Jacoby Myers, sure, hang on to him. Willing to trade both of those guys in a package piece. Jalen Waddle, package piece. Laviska Shenault, package piece. I don't want him. Marquise Brown, stud muffin. Go get him if you can. And in fact, a lot of people are talking about Rashad Bateman and that when he comes back, he's going to hurt Marquise Brown. Sure. Keep saying that so you can hurt my Marquise Brown value and I can go out and trade for him in every single league. Every single league. Bro, he's Hollywood Brown. And we were talking about this last year. It seems everybody forgot about the hype from him last year. It's finally coming through. Did you not see that overtime touchdown? That was beautiful. He boxed out the wide receiver, caught the ball, leaned back a little bit. Beautiful. Expert, elite level wide receiver stuff right there. I love Marquise Brown. Put some respect on my man's name. Corey Davis, yeah, package piece. Get him up. Rondale Moore. Rondale Moore needs to be added. He has potential, breakout potential. Darnell Mooney has to be added. Will Fuller, I don't want you. Jalen Reagor, I don't want you. Sterling Shepard needs to be on your roster. I think he has wide receiver 1 upside every single week, wide receiver 2 floor. Gabriel Davis, no. Devonte Parker, I'll put him on my team and wait and see, but I'm only going to wait for a couple weeks, and then I'm going to get rid of him. Michael Gallup, absolutely not. I hope that they trade Michael Gallup, to tell you the truth. Brian Edwards, no. MVS, no. Van Jefferson, no. Henry Ruggs, sure. Christian Kirk, no. And when I say sure with Henry Ruggs, I mean, sure, you can put him in a package piece and get rid of him or whatever, but not too huge in him. So, Kadarius Toney, I want him on my team. I like him a lot. See what I got here. Emmanuel Sanders needs to be owned. He needs to be on teams. I think Emmanuel Sanders has a chance to beat Stephon Diggs out as far as touchdown goes for the rest of the season. And if he keeps doing that, that might mean he finishes above the season on Stephon Diggs. Keep firing up Emmanuel Sanders. Quez Watkins, like I said, I like him a lot. Keep an eye on him. Hunter Renfrow has to be added. Amon-Ra St. Brown, he could be on your team as well. Hang on to him. See what happens. He could be a waiver wire guy that you go and grab as well. Tim Patrick, I like him. Hang on to him. See if you can trade low for him. Let's move over to running backs. Go back up. CMC, like I said, I think you need to trade for him. Dalvin Cook, if you have him, hang on to him. You need to have Alexander Madison as well. Alvin Kamara, obviously you're hanging on to him. If you can trade for any one of these guys, obviously go trade for him. Jonathan Taylor, I love him. I've been saying it for a couple weeks. You got to go trade for him. Hopefully you did because he's going to beast out the rest of the year. Hines is taking a super backseat on that, so that's awesome. Zeke, stud. If you can trade for him, somehow do it. Najee, if you can trade for him, somehow do it. Chubb, he's out this week. So if you can trade for him, do it, but don't spend too much on him. Don't spend a ton. Don't give up a starting running back for him. Trade a package to get Nick Chubb. Derrick Henry, stud. You're not getting him. Aaron Jones, if you can. Saquon Barkley, if you can trade for him. But also, once again, don't trade $1 million to get him. You know what I mean? Somebody in my league traded Tyreek Hill for Saquon Barkley and Allen Robinson. That's fair. I get that. Okay. I wouldn't have liked to lose Tyreek, but I get it. The guy was loaded at wide receiver and he needed a running back really bad. I get it. Austin Eckler, if you can trade for him, do it. Joe Mixon, I'm moving away from him. James Robinson, if you can get James Robinson, he's another guy, lower end guy, not many people are talking about. He'll be on championship teams. Antonio Gibson, same exact category. He's too low valued right now. J.D. McKissick took a super backseat to him. I was low on Antonio Gibson, thinking that he's going to be limited by injury. He said, no, dude, you better read about me. DeAndre Swift, go get him if you can. David Montgomery, go get him if you can. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, get away from him. Josh Jacobs, league winner. Go get Josh Jacobs. Miles Sanders, I don't want him. Chris Carson, if you can get Chris Carson, get Chris Carson. Javonte Williams, get Javonte Williams. Darrell Henderson, I'd like to get Darrell Henderson as well. I like him on my team. Kareem Hunt, yeah, sure. I get it. A lot of people are eyeing him. You know, it might go towards Kareem Hunt this entire year, but I'm not paying up for him. I'm paying exactly what I think Kareem Hunt is. I'm not paying up for him. So a lot of people are saying, you got to go get Kareem Hunt. No, I'm not paying for that guy. No way. Mike Davis, I don't want. Trey Sermon, I don't want. Damian Harris, I don't want. Myles Gaskin, I don't want. Melvin Gordon, I don't want. Chase Edmonds, I do want. And I'm willing to trade for him, but it's got to be a low price. Leonard Fournette, I'm willing to trade for, and I'm willing to pay up a little bit for to get him. Let's see here. Jamal Williams, hang on to him, see what happens. Cordarrelle Patterson, if you can trade for him, try to, but it's going to be expensive. So there's my peoples, everybody. That's my show, my 50-minute 0-5 rebuild. If you guys have any more questions, if I didn't answer any questions on here for you that you're worried about something like that, drop it in the comments below. Make sure to check me out on TikTok. I answer basically all the questions that you guys leave me on TikTok, or at least I try to. And if I don't answer it, comment it again, and I'll answer it, because sometimes it does get buried. So if you need to know something, I'm more than willing to do my best to answer all your questions, guys. Let us go get these trophies, man. It is time. And if you're 0-5, you're 1-4, hit me up. I got you. We're going to make it work. We're going to get these W's, and we're going to show the league who's the best, who's the champ. You are, my friend. Enjoy the day. I'll see y'all. Be easy. Thank you for tuning in.